When I talk to an agent and I say, hey, real estate agent, what are the steps to selling a house? I hear a lot of discomfort in how you present yourself. When I was asked, how are the steps to selling a house? Not that you don't have incredibly good answers and great experience, but what happens is you've never packaged it up. I'm going to show you the evolution of what the AIs could do for us. For those of you that have been following along AI, I've recently been saying to broader audiences that if you ignored AI for the last couple of years, great. The purpose of content marketing is such that you share your knowledge, your wisdom, your expertise, you answer the most frequently asked questions, you uncover problems that your clients didn't even know that were going to exist or do exist, and you demonstrate how your expertise and knowledge solves those problems. You develop frameworks and processes and steps. That's what experts do. So for today, I just want to make sure that you understand that my job with you today is to help you create incredibly high value content that adds value to the web, adds value to your marketplace, your unique client. And in exchange for you bringing that value, creating that value, and organizing and packaging that value out into the web, in exchange for the effort and the value, I want to show you how to get the return on investment. And in 2026, it's never been easier to do it. And it's never been better for new client acquisition. It's actually easier to acquire clients today with content and education marketing than it's ever been. It's never been easier to create it, design it, and package it and put it onto the web in a very professional way. The high value exchange is when you create good content that actually serves and answers the questions, helps solve problems, demonstrates your expertise, tells them what the steps are, helps set good expectations, and adds value to their journey. When you do that and you share that with your clients, it saves you time. And so what a lot of agents miss is they go, I created content, but you didn't really make it real. You just did it. Can you just create some blog posts for me and get those blog posts up on the web, and hopefully that'll all work out? No. Hey, can you hire a virtual assistant to do social media content and just have them be consistently posting content? Does that work? No. Answering the fundamental questions from your perspective, your market knowledge, your expertise, your knowledge, that content serves clients, serves people. And when you can get your marketing assistants and your team to help extract that out of you, package it up, and position it onto the web successfully, that's when you win. But at the end of the day, I find that it's useful for you to see how I interacted with my AI. And you and I go through those responses so you can get a sense of how they are responding, what works, what doesn't, and then how I continue to prompt and move through that process. Google's Gemini, it's really cool at this type of content. And this is the one area where I think Gemini really excels, is when we do what's called keyword research. So let's take a quick look at the prompt that I use. Help me do some keyword research with all the topical authority keyword supporting topics. Show me how this term should be separated into subtopics. Help me do some keyword research, the term topical authority, the supporting topics for how to sell a house. Show me how to separate this and make this work. The AI is smart enough to understand that. And this is a really important prompt, okay? So yeah, let's dive in. How to sell a house is a highly competitive head keyword. To rank for it, you can't just publish one massive article. You have to prove to the search engines that you are a comprehensive expert by building out a topical map, often called the pillar and the cluster model. So it says the pillar post, how to sell a house. This page outlines the entire process from start to finish. However, instead of going into extreme depth on every single detail, the pillar page links out to your spoke or cluster pages, which covers the subtopics in granular detail. That's the pillar. And then what you do is you then go over to another page and you go deep on that other topic. And so if you want, then it links over, it's called an internal link. And over here on this page, this is where you go into super depth on how to prepare and how to stage a home, right? And you could even go, here's how to prepare, and then staging could be its own separate page. And that's where you go deeper, is in these other pages, but they all roll up and connect to this main page. Now, you'll see, once I tell you that, you'll see that everywhere. And I just need you to understand that's just how the web works, right? Preparation and staging, target keywords. When I go talk to a real estate agent and I go evaluate their websites and I go evaluate their social media and I go evaluate their content, I'm like, where is the answers to all the main key questions? The things that you help people with every day, the things that people say thank you for, the advice that you give that literally changes the trajectory of your clients. That advice that changes the trajectory of your clients, that's the good stuff. that needs to be shared and structured onto the web, right? And as you have more stories and case studies, then when you answer this, what prepares should I make before selling a home? The more unique times that you have helped sellers deal with this, the more unique scenarios you've had issues and problems, the more you start to see patterns in your local marketplaces, that the web, the algorithms, the AIs, the Googles, the Bings, the social media algorithms, that's the content that they show right to the perfect person. Not you going to ChatGPT and having it write out some lame answer that all ChatGPT did was went and read 3 blog posts and then copy and then add. That's not adding value to the web. Now, so let's just take a look at this. So we did for preparation and staging, the pre-listing cluster, pricing valuation, the money cluster, I like that. The selling methods, the logistics cluster, financial taxes and legalities, the paperwork cluster, capital gains, big topic, seller disclosures by state, big topic, marketing showings and offers, the market cluster, how to prepare for an open house, tips for living in a house while selling it, how to handle multiple offers on your house, real estate contingencies explained for sellers, and how to negotiate a home sale. For 99% of the agents out there, you have unique ways that you approach these things. And those unique ways in your unique marketplace, that content has significant value. This is a win-win for everybody, right? This is where the game gets. Some of the stuff is attracting new client opportunities, and some of this is just saving you time with your expert knowledge and experience. Situation and niche selling, high intent clusters. This is really good. There's more on that one. I'm going to show you from ChatGPT, right? These niche selling clusters, high intent, situational stuff. This is really high value stuff. Okay, so this was just a nice little, you can see that, wow, that makes perfect sense. It's logical, it was rational, helps break this thing down. I said, all right, a niche market, does that change things, and how does it? A niche market. I said, if you were advising a top real estate agent, what questions would you ask first to decide how to apply this content to their website? I was just playing with the AI to see if I can get it down closer to where we needed to go. The truth was, I didn't ask a really good question here. And so the response actually wasn't great. And so again, the clarity of the question that you asked and adding in the components gets you a good response. And here's the question I think most of you struggle with. So I had to re-clarify my question. Those are great. You identified niche types, situations, touch geography and territory, and finally conversion alignment, right? Don't write about something that you don't really know about or are ready to serve. The problems most agents have when I ask them about geography or territory is if I asked if you want a listing appointment all over San Diego, their first answer is always yes. In San Diego, we have an entire county. Then we have the city limits. Inside the city is different city names and zip codes, very different regions. Then outside the city, there is the county areas like mine, coastal North County, just outside the city limits, which in North County, we have big regions and diversity and the city name, zip code spanning a large area. And so just giving it some context to the problem and giving it some framing. Since it is Google and Google runs Google Maps, it has a really good understanding of this stuff. So it was easy for it to figure out what I was talking about. I said, so let's first, we're tackling that from an SEO and keyword strategist game plan. What are some ways to think about this problem? The fear of all real estate agents is they say, I don't want to lose business because I excluded something, or I don't want my brand to only be about this narrow geography. How should we think about this before diving into the content creation? We don't want to miss out on opportunities on the condo that they're selling down in Mission Beach, or we don't want to miss out on an opportunity for the client that we just had dinner with the other night. They bought a house on Lake Murphy in kind of El Cajon area. So let's ask the expert over here. The FOMO, the fear of missing out on a deal across the county, is the single biggest mental roadblock agents face when architecting a digital brand. Saying yes to all of San Diego is the fast track to exhausting your marketing budget and ranking for absolutely nothing. To help an agent shift their mindset before diving into content creation, you do have to break down the reality of how SEO actually works and reframe narrowing down as a strategic business advantage, not a limitation. Here are the core concepts and mental shifts to guide you through the geographic problem. The SEO reality is David versus Goliath. Agents need to understand that they are up against the search engine results page, SERP. The broad trap. If an agent optimizes for San Diego real estate agent selling a house in San Diego, they're fighting a direct, unwinnable war against Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, and Yelp. These corporate giants spend millions to own these broad terms. The niche advantage. Google's algorithm rewards topical relevance and local proximity. Google's algorithm rewards you at the local level with relevance. This is why when you guys all bought the website company that you all paid for, you paid tons of money for it, and then they asked you what were your 5 main cities, and you're like, I don't know, and you spun all over the place, right? So that you didn't give them an answer. So then what they did is they just plugged onto your website super broad and general geographic terms and content, and all of you looked at it and you're like, and you didn't know what to do, right? Win the niche, and you will win. I promise you, the niche advantage, Google rewards that, great. The massive portal, this is a really important point. The massive portals provide a mile wide and an inch deep experience. An agent can win by providing an inch wide and a mile deep experience. If someone searches for how to sell a coastal property in Solana Beach, Google wants to serve them a hyper-local expert, not a generic portal page. Those are the words out of Google's mouth, not my mouth. Number 2, the hub and spoke geographic expansion model, addressing their fear of being pigeonholed by explaining that a geographic focus isn't a permanent cage, it's a wedge. You start by establishing an ironclad geographic territory asset. This is their primary farm. Maybe it's a specific coastal zip code, right, defined by a cluster of neighborhoods. The content strategy focuses 100% on becoming the undeniable authority here first. This, folks, the expansion. Once Google recognizes their digital brand as the authority in that specific hub, it becomes exponentially easier to rank for adjacent areas. Once they capture the local market, they can spin up spoke content targeting neighboring cities. You earn the right to expand by winning the micro market first. This is the great news. Win the area that you actually have all the knowledge, wisdom, and expertise in. Build the model of how to do that with this whole strategy of SEO and AEO, right? How to use AEO in your marketing assistance and your current web provider to win this little niche. Then you can just now expand. It actually asked me, what do you think agents would respond best to? And I said, I believe that the agents will respond best to win the one and then earn the right to expand, right? Because agents don't understand how website URL architecture works and can be rearranged and expanding. They think it's permanent. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand how the URL and then page build out worked with a website. So it's very flexible. We can expand and rearrange always. And actually the Google algorithm likes it when you're consistently updating stuff and changing things around and making it more logical and connecting the dots. So they actually do like it when you make improvements to how your website architecture flows, right? How your URL flows and expands. I didn't know that. Nobody ever told me that until I figured it out. And I basically said Ruby Homes in California did this. They started off with 2 websites in LA, expanded 1, then they expanded now to every one of the most expensive zip codes and counties in California. And they've been winning this game. And I said, so now that they are clear about drilling down and narrowing down, what's the best way to play the game? YouTube, whatever you got. Then I just said, all right, help them build out that first Solana how to sell a house section. And what does that now look like based upon the keyword game plan that we started off with? Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road. We're taking the theoretical pillar and cluster SEO model and applying it directly to build out the digital brand and geographic territory for this website. To win Solana Beach, cannot just publish generic real estate advice. Every piece of content must filter those original keyword clusters through a hyper-local North Coastal County lens. It has to sound like it was written by an insider who knows the difference between Columbus, Santa Fe, and the Seafront Design District. Complete guide to selling your house in Solana Beach. There you go, step 1, right? The Solana Beach subtopic clusters, right? Preparation and staging. The coastal reality west of the 5 is very different than east of the 5, right? You've got my area versus over here, which is all of the condos versus the single family, right? Standard online valuations, fail in custom coastal neighborhoods, of course, right? Selling methods and marketing, the hidden market, pros and cons of selling your Solana Beach home off market, pocket listing, great blog post. Marketing a coastal home, why drone footage and lifestyle video are non-negotiable. Financial and taxes, navigating Prop 19, right? What Solana Beach seniors need to know. Understanding capital gains when selling a highly appreciative coastal property. Navigating the California Coastal Commission, what sellers need to disclose about property lines and remodels. Situation and niche selling, high intent pain points. See, the situational selling, by the way, this is where I'd probably spend a lot more time right here because I manage the inherited property in Solana Beach. Some of you guys know that is pretty much like 50% of the listings that are for sale right now, selling a vacation home, right? Or an Airbnb on the coast. We've got a 1031 exchange person right now, buyer, who is now wanting to buy one of those in this marketplace. It's great. We got to go find someone who has the rental, the Airbnb, and we can actually just buy it from them because we've got the 1031 exchange. These are very common things here on the coast. So notice that Gemini completely customized that for me. That is awesome content. I love it when there's a concept that I refer to as dual use content. Dual use content means that when you create the content, when you answer the questions of that blog post, you get dual use. You get smarter as a real estate professional. I love that. Your answers get way better. That's good. Your conversion goes up. Your respect goes up. Your trust goes up. And you create the content onto the web and you get rewarded by the customers finding you and thanking you for that knowledge. All right, I want to show you good old ChatGPT. Guess what? Stupid ChatGPT is now really impressive. And I got to tell you, if you notice down here where it says thinking, extended, things longer for more complex. So standard thinking, extended thinking. I didn't even notice that's new. I just clicked that. But a lot of you, what's happening is you are stuck over here at this instant. You're not even on this thinking. And then I didn't even know, I just learned right now that I could be on the extended thinking. What you're going to notice is that ChatGPT is doing a really good job of, when you ask it a question, it breaks the question down into some sub questions. Then it goes out and does some research on each one of those questions. And then what it does is it breaks it up into chunks. And then it goes and answers the next one and then the next one. And then what it does is then it starts to summarize what it learned from those 3 chunks into something new. And then it might look at another angle and might summarize again at the end. And then it might give you a few follow-up suggestions. And then now I understand a little bit of the formatting of the output that it's giving me. And that now helps me to realize the level of detail of the summary. This actually turned out really well. Probably end here. I did Grok and I did Claude up there, but this is really powerful. One of the top SEO research tools uses the term parent topic. The parent topic is how to sell a house. And then everything underneath that is a sub phrase. So you have this parent topic. Okay? It was interesting once I started reading this from a real estate agent's perspective. Then it helped to unravel what these terms meant. How to sell a house is the main term, right? It's the main word, main phrase. And then getting ready to sell, here's an example of supporting topics, home selling checklist, how to get your house ready to sell, repairs, staging, decluttering, should I renovate, pricing a home, how to price, how to determine the value, should I price high or low when selling, comparative market analysis for sellers, appraisals versus market value, pricing, staging for a selling home. There's really good detail here with the nuance. Choosing how to sell, should I use a realtor to sell my house, best way to sell, how to sell without an agent, selling to an investor, cash offer versus listing on the market, cost and fees and net proceeds, how much does it cost, closing, realtor fees, concessions, money, proceed calculator, capital gains, process and time, steps, timelines, what happens after, how long does it take, listing to closing time, what documents do I need? Great questions. Marketing and property, offers, negotiations, and contracts. This is mid to late funnel, how to review, how to make strong, contingencies, backups, explain, should a seller accept an offer, or when should a seller accept an offer? So great things for you guys to cover. Remember, expert advice content, save you time. Okay. Closing and moving, what happens at closing, closing checklist, moving, possessions, final walkthrough, seller's responsibilities, situation-specific selling. I love this term situation. I've been using this in the KW Roadshow, appointment first, marketing made simple. We got to go to specific situations and we got to understand their problems. We got to understand the ideal client profile for the situation, for your marketplace, and then create content to them, right? Inherited properties, house after divorce, rental, tenants, needs repairs, in probate, when relocating, luxury, condo, vacant. These are just a couple examples. Localized seller intent, how to sell in area, city, neighbors, right? Disclosures, the search intent behind the clusters, informational, how choose steps, best time, how long, comparative, great, realtor, FSBO, cash, listing, renovate, as is, open house versus private showings, transactional, commercial, home value before selling, cost to sell a house, top listing agents in, seller, right? This means that these are like, when people search this, and if you show up, you make money. It's like right there. So what you can see what chat did is it started laying out the information, and then what it did is now just is starting to refine and summarize. Number 7, my recommendations for you specifically for a real estate agent or coach, I would separate how to sell into 3 master layers: universal, advisor, niche, and local domination. So what it's doing now is it took all that original knowledge and now it's starting to reshuffle it into a better strategy, a simple visual outline, how to sell, and now it just gave us a really nice summary right here at the very end. How to sell a house, compare, price, decide, understand. Would you like a spreadsheet style? I said, yes, do that. And then it created that. And I was like, great, that's really nice. And then it asked me at the very end, because chat's very helpful, right? But then at the very end, it says, would you like me to create a true spreadsheet table for you? And I said, yes, do that. And it did. Here it is. So for those of you that have this link, you can just download that right there and you are off and running. Pretty exciting stuff, guys. I know this was a lot of information, but the truth is we now have the power to literally create extraordinary, highly relevant content at scale. I refer to this as relevance at scale. And we create content that creates clients. This is unbelievable. Content that creates clients is now fully accessible, super easy to do, never been easier, with the AIs as our tool to support us. And for us to now just focus on the niche and our local expertise and knowledge, and we win.